Should President Trump be discussing interest rates with the Fed? And is socialism taking over? What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line, and always great to be with you here on the weekend. And I had a lot of fun this weekend. Get the British Open going on, and Tiger put together a nice round, and let's see how he can finish the rest of the day. But in the meantime, we had last week, we had President Trump decide to step in and talk about interest rates with the Federal Reserve and the too strong dollar. And I think those are two areas that our president should not be discussing. I don't believe that we should, again, try to continue to manipulate the economy. We should not be trying to borrow our way out of debt. And what is going to happen with all this debt? There's no way it'll ever be paid back, which brings us into the fake money situation. I think when you look at the overall situation, all we've done is created a similar situation to many, many years ago, where you're allowing the rich to get richer and you're allowing the middle class to get it stuck up there, you know what. I think that it's time to let the free markets trade. Very much to what he's trying to get done with tariffs and trade wars, it should be done with interest rates and the dollar. Let it free trade. Let's not be like China and try to manipulate our banking system. We've already got enough problems. We already print way too much money, which is why you're seeing such a drive to what might be the biggest bull market coming of our time, okay? Because again, you're creating more reasons for people to want to get into the cryptocurrency world, which may be creating a dramatic bull market here. Again, I didn't make any money, so I don't want it. I'm not talking my book. I am losing money in my cryptocurrency investments at the moment. But I do believe that by the president discussing and trying to get Chair Powell to keep interest rates low and not let the system design what's supposed to happen, and by talking down the dollar, I think that is something that is going to create more problems down the road and into the future. And I think that's why when we look at the overall cryptocurrency space, I think we're creating a massive opportunity and a massive bull market. But we know any of these types of markets, as we experienced with the NASDAQ back in the 90s, there can be a lot of warts here. So you have to be very careful and diligent as to how you get involved and where you get involved, which is why you don't want to take too much of any one investment and buy any one coin fully and invest everything. Again, as we always talk about, moderation and a couple of percentage points should be what you should be investing into this if you're so inclined. But we do believe that that could be a great bull market coming up. And the more that we talk about manipulating our currency, the more we talk about manipulating the interest rate market, the more we try to stifle things, the worse it's going to be down the road, which at the end of the day will create a better market for the cryptocurrencies, in my opinion. Again, I coined this phrase back in 2008, and it still hits today. You cannot borrow your way out of debt, all right? This is what we have tried to do for the last 10 years. Actually, it goes longer than that, but over the last 10 years, we have seen such a ridiculous amount of debt created that eventually the debt bomb has to explode. Now, again, most of this debt is air, and is going to be an air pocket. All right, and this goes back to the old theory that many who talk about things, which is fake currency. You know, the fiat currency system is a fake system to begin with. Again, it goes into the example of when you allow banks to lend at 10 times what their reserve is. And again, I continue to say that stress test or no stress test, I would venture to say that most banks do not have anywhere near in reserve what they are lending and what's on the street. And when you lend out on the basis that we are allowed to lend, you are in effect printing money. Did you ever wonder if you ever went to a bank and said, hey, I can't pay, and they go, well, we'll reduce your rate? I'm giving you the simple version. but they continue to reduce what you have to pay because basically they're collecting money on air. There is no money. It's a fake money system. And that is something that we've seen happen throughout the globe, throughout everywhere, is you allow this, you continue to see this battle, these currency wars that have been created throughout the system. And again, this goes back to you take away the free markets, which is what we've done, and you allow this system to print and create money out of thin air. It's no different than when a company needs money and they create a secondary issuing on their money. Again, to me, and I may be wrong, I'm not an economist, but the economists I know certainly don't have a clue as to what goes on. The ones that I watch on TV, they continue to say that, well, yeah, you got to keep printing, but this is how we get real growth. Well, I don't see real growth. I want to know when we're going to see wage growth. That would be real growth, when the average American is actually making more money. I don't care that there's more jobs available. I'm happy about that. But when is the average American going to be able to make more money? When are we going to get the healthcare system under control? Those are the things that we should be concerned about, all right? Not whether or not the free market decides that higher interest rates is correct. Why do you think, and we've talked about this a number of times, but why do you think the peer-to-peer lending system is so huge? I've got friends of mine that are in that peer-to-peer business, and they're making a fortune. Why? Because the banks won't lend you money even though rates are lower, and we're not creating money for the system. So they've created a lot of offshoot businesses, which in turn, a lot of the banks go back and buy those bad loans anyways. So again, I ask you the very simple question. Should President Trump, and you know I'm a fan of Trump, you know that I voted for him, B, predicted he would win, and I think he's doing a great job, but I think this is a step too far. I don't think that we should try to interrupt a free market system. I think that defeats the purpose of all these tariffs and trade wars that we're talking about right now, and I think that takes away his power from that. You know, there's now talk that he might go up to $500 billion on tariffs, which is basically everything. Now again, I have no problem with that part of it. I believe in what he's doing with the trade wars. I believe it's time we stood up and said, hey, enough is enough. But what I don't like, again, it goes back to, if you're going to change something but then reduce the value of your currency, then really you haven't changed anything. All you've done is succeeded is to take away from the American people once again through a different avenue. This goes back to Jekyll Island. And if you look at a chart of the value of the actual dollar, and one of my good friends used to give me a great example, and you can take this for what it's worth, but back in 1964 when we had silver coins, okay, they stopped making silver. But in 1964, a silver quarter, would buy you basically a gallon of gas, okay? You move the clock forward, okay, to today, that same silver quarter cashed in would buy you more than a gallon of gas. So again, what you've seen is a reduction, because now to buy a gallon of gas, it takes me 12 quarters to buy that same gallon of gas. That just shows you the damage that has been done based on the fiat monetary system, the fiat currency system done globally. So you put a tariff on, but then you reduce the value of a currency, so it destroys the tariff anyway. So what difference does it make? So when do we decide that it's time to go back to a free market system? That's where I want to see, and I think that was the route that we were on when we started this. You've already seen Mexico come to the table a little bit and say, hey, we're going to work something out, which would be outstanding for our farmers if they get rid of the tariffs and they get rid of the quotas and they let the free market, geez, it's amazing the theme of free markets. If we let the free markets decide and let the customer decide on who they want to buy from. We know that the food supply in this world is not big enough anyways. You know, if you continue to create more people that can afford to eat food, if you're trying to upgrade your class system and becoming more of a nations around the world that are actually creating more so that people can actually eat better, then you're going to have a demand for food anyways. Doesn't matter where it comes from, whether it comes from Brazil or Argentina or wherever it comes from. Again, the end of it, there's going to be enough for everybody. And of course, that does not take into consideration the possible weather events that can happen that can destroy crops. Remember, we're not manufacturing corn and wheat and soybeans. We're growing them. So not only are we dependent on the availability and the time, but weather plays an issue as well. So again, I go back to, we want to see free markets. We want to see the market and asset classes price themselves, whether they be high or low, because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. And you quit creating this monster debt bubble that is going to show up and going to pop, and all of this debt is going to have to be forgiven. And you know what? I'm frustrated about that because I have no debt, and I'd like to get my debt forgiven. That's one of the big new commercials you see all the time, is how to get your debt forgiven. Why isn't it that we just don't have a free market and let the free markets trade? And that's where I think that our president has made a mistake here. I still support him. I'm still thrilled with the way that he's handling everything else. But again, I think that the Federal Reserve was put in place as a private corporation, not to be meddled with by the government. That'll do it for the first segment here of Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz. And as always, I thank you so much for being a part of the show. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for a break. And don't forget to check out our high school investing program at highschoolinvesting.com. We are in our 9th year and run out of some capital to continue to let it operate. We have had some help from people who've come to patreon.com/Bubba Trading, but we need more if we're going to be able to continue to run this and get into our 9th year as we get ready for back to school. If you'd like to help us out, go to Patreon, patreon.com/Bubba Trading, and give us a small donation, and we'd be very happy and thankful for it, as we do thank everybody else who has already helped us so far. And don't forget to catch the Bubba Show every day from 4 to 5 Eastern at libertytalk.fm. And now let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz. And as we usually do in the first part of the show, we talk about markets. And last week markets were pretty flat. Wasn't much going on. It was, again, markets are consolidating. They're winding so tight that they're coiling, we would call it. And there's going to be a huge move coming. In my eyes, it could be up then down. I think the first big move comes to the upside, but I think the big move comes from the drift higher and then the breakdown. We'll see how that plays out. Again, we're still neutral, observing, and waiting for an opportunity. Our numbers indicate that the market should go higher, okay? But again, we're still really on the sidelines because it's hard to want to buy at these levels, but certainly trying to pick the top would not be what we'd be looking to do either. It looks like gold has finally broken down and now looks like it's headed back to 1,200 and possibly below the 1,200 level. Again, 1,240 is a key number, and when it broke, I think it takes care of business. And, I think that you have to look at it and understand, again, how markets work. And to me, it looks like it wants to go lower. The dollar once again failed to take out that 95 level, and I know some out there had called it a key reversal move. I don't see it. I think that the dollar is firmly entrenched in congestion and will break out. And I think 97 is next. I think par by the end of the year. And I also believe that, again, our black swan event is going to be higher interest rates, even though we talked about what President Trump's going to do in the first segment, and a stronger dollar. Because, again, shortly here, inflation is going to start to get away from the Federal Reserve, as it always does. This will not be the first time this has ever happened. This is typical for them. And of course, we get to a certain point in the markets, and now, the markets are never going down again. We've got all the bullish sentiment. We've got every reason to believe that we're going to the moon. We're going to Pluto, man. In the meantime, usually that's very near the end. And of course, with some of the so-called experts, the stealth blue market. I love the new term, stealth. Anyways, again, we know over history, markets go up 8% year over year. We also know that at some point here, with all the bullish talk and with everybody knowing that we can never go down again and that this time is different, we're only moments away from another reversal and another collapse in the markets. But again, we're not predicting it. We're going to stay neutral and observe the markets. In the meantime, bonds were very choppy. Interest rates were very flat last week. Again, partially because of what some of the comments that were made. We believe that bonds are going to collapse. We believe interest rates are going to explode to the upside. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the next day, but that is around the corner. That's another thing that, again, you can't, once it gets away from you, you cannot control it. And I think that is something that we see, and one of the concerns that you would have. And if you see what's going on in China, China is in massive trouble right now. They've got a lot of issues and a lot of problems there, and that will create even a bigger problem. And of course, now you've got the grains that look like they have finally bottomed. I think that was a great bottom last week. And I think from being uncomfortable soybeans for quite a while, we are now very comfortable with the soybean markets. We like them all, corn, wheat, and soybeans. Obviously, we'd look for dips to be buyers. The meats, cattle, had a nice week last week. Cattle on feed on Friday. In fact, I texted out Friday morning before the report comes out. I said, based on the way the markets are trading, you can expect to see a neutral to bullish report. And of course, the report was neutral to bullish. So I would expect to see a little selling pressure early in the week. And then I would expect to see cattle resume back to the upside. Hogs, we're trading October hogs right now. They have been just brutal. But I do think that there's an announcement going to come out in the next few days. You can kind of see the way the market are trading. I think there's a fundamental news item going to show up all of a sudden, which will explode the grains and explode hogs back to the upside. So we'll see how that all plays out. Bitcoin had a nice week and is back in the mid 7,000s. And as we said in the earlier part, that we believe that this is going to really explode as we go forward. This is the next big bull market. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, but this is the next big bull market. And I think that the general markets are, if they continue higher, they will continue to drift higher. If they break, they will break hard. Now, again, I don't see a big break coming yet, and I'm certainly not going to predict it here. We've got a lot of things coming out. We're in the middle of earnings season. So you've seen our earnings have been pretty good. Now, again, I believe that the markets themselves have been priced for perfection. So it's going to be hard for me to think that they can continue. But again, I'm not saying they won't. I think a lot of the forward guidance will be involved here. And I think that is something that we need to look at as well. But again, I believe that the markets themselves are priced in for perfection, okay? And again, when you tie that in with global debt and the other issues that are happening around the world, to me, I find it hard to believe that this can all continue. You've got stocks like Caterpillar now having what they call the death cross, which is when the 50 crosses below 200, the first time in 533 trading days. So there's a lot of warning signs out there. If you're an investor, I think you should just turn your phone off, turn the TV off, and not worry about it, because I don't think investors should ever sell their portfolios. I don't think investors should try to figure out what's next. I think investors should hedge their portfolio. But if you're not going to hedge, I think if you're buying good solid companies, I wouldn't try to continue to they call it rotation. The defensive rotation, I think, is stupid. I think that's our crock that was created by those who want to collect more commissions. Okay, I don't think it does you any good. And I can say to you that you can put any stock of a good company, again, I'm not talking about some fly-by-nighter, but if you take an AT&T or a Microsoft or any company that we assume is going to be around for a while, I would assume with dividends and everything else, they would perform just as well or better than if you tried to rotate around. Now, I mentioned something in the beginning of the show as well about socialism. Now, this, what's her name? Ocasio-Cortez, she's really grabbing some traction with trying to create socialism here. Now, again, I warn you, okay, that socialism is not the way that we should be going. I warn you that, the trying to eliminate everything and allowing to open up our borders for everybody is a place we don't want to be. And you can see what's going on in Germany and other places around the globe with some of the problems. But the socialism idea does not work, okay? In Chicago, they're talking about giving a stipend to citizens of something like $500 a month. That does not work. If we have learned anything in life, is that you can't keep giving away things for free. And I think that when you start to do that, and again, I think that young people that come from homes that have money, have substance, and have had everything given to them their whole lives, I think that they don't understand that you just can't keep giving to everybody. That it's not the protocol. It takes away the drive and desire for people to create things. I mean, if you told me that I could, anything I made over $300,000 a year, I would be taxed at a higher rate, I would stop earning at $300,000 a year. I would not want to earn more. I would just put it off and earn it the next year. Okay, I'd find other ways to do it. I think that the people promoting the socialism agenda are those that are past that and that are very wealthy. And I think that becomes a bigger problem. And don't kid yourself. You know, Bernie Sanders came very close. Okay, but we've seen and learned that socialism doesn't work. Now, the one region that could have done it was Finland. They've got enough to do it, and they have the money. They're not in a deficit position. We here are already in such major debt. How are we going to get the money for that? We are already so overtaxed, it's ridiculous. So it's better that we clean our house out and get back to a system. Now, again, I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I also believe that socialism itself does not work. It never has, it never will, and we're going to continue to try to push that agenda, okay? Because that's the same as the welfare state. That was the same thing that the left used to gain all their votes, which kept a lot of the poor suppressed and not being able, wanting them to get out and get jobs to create some security and to create some good feeling about themselves and actually make a good living. It was easier to keep them on welfare and keep them underneath. I think that's a problem. And I think that's where, in this country, we've ran into some problems as well. And I think if we can get out of that and go back to creating where people actually work and feel good about themselves and make a living, it stimulates the whole economy. Socialism does not stimulate the economy. It drains the economy. And as soon as you run out of other people's money, what happens? You're out of business. It's the same thing we're going to have in this country. Again, we need to nip this in the bud, and that's why, as I always say, I don't care who you vote for, but get out there and vote. And I think most of you will realize the things I'm talking about here are on the correct path, and that the socialistic agenda will not work here. And that's something that I think is very, very important, because are we not in enough problems? And again, if you look at the key states that give away, that tax the most and give away the most and are busted, California, New York, Illinois, brutal, okay? So we need to stop this and nip this and get it where Americans go back to work and build this country and rebuild this country and make it better for everybody. That's just one of the ways I see it, and that's how I look at it. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and we're going to come back with my commentary after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. Remember, everybody, check out our high school investing program, highschoolinvesting.com. Certainly, if you want to help us, we're in 600 high schools throughout the country. I put the bill for everybody. I get no pay from any of the schools. That's free. I have no sponsorship. If you'd like to sponsor the program, that'd be great too. But in the meantime, if you'd like to make a little donation, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/Bubba Trading, and help us out. And I thank all of you who have helped us out so far. It's been a great help. But again, the big bills are coming in now. You know, the $25,000 for the website, and a lot of things are coming up and coming due. And I don't know if we're going to ever make it this year. We're going to give it the old college try or the old high school try. In the meantime, also don't forget to catch the Bubba Show every day from 4 to 5 Eastern at libertytalk.fm. And now let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz. And welcome back, everybody. Here we are at Bubba's Bottom Line for, of course, my commentary. And, you know, it's football season. Our football season is coming up. We just finished the British Open. Baseball, we just had the All-Star game. But here we are in football season, which is where the biggest controversy of the national anthem is coming up. And I think it's time to nip this in the bud. And I think, look, you know how I feel, and maybe you don't. But I love our military. I love our police. I love our firefighters. I love all the public servants that are saying to me, I'm going to risk my life for you for a lousy salary. Okay? That's basically what it is. They don't get paid much to go out and risk their life for you and for me every single day. Now, especially our military, who made this country what it is today. If you're going to be on the field for the national anthem, then you better get off your ass and stand for the national anthem, okay? You have every right to protest it, but I don't believe that that's the right venue, okay? If you don't want to stand for the national anthem, stay in the locker room. I think it's a very simple solution. I'm tired of these political protests of people protesting that don't have a clue, and really, they're really protesting, in my opinion, against the president, okay? I think that it's very disrespectful to our military, and any military person will tell you that they respect that person's right to do it. That's what the military fought for. That's what we fought for in this country, is to give the individual a right. But I think there's a difference between a right, a privilege, and being disrespectful to those out there. And I think when you kneel for the national anthem, you're being extremely disrespectful to our members of the military, their families, the people that they lost that defended this country for us. And that's where my problem comes in. Again, I understand rights. And when Colin Kaepernick kneeled for the first time, I said, I don't like it, but he has the right to do it. But now, after 2 years, I think it's time to nip this now and say enough, okay? Either play the national anthem with the players in the locker room and don't let them out, but you cannot have these teams. You've got the New York Giants and the Tishes that are, in disagreement, and certainly because they're on the other side of the political aisle, okay? Again, I don't think that if you want to create an agenda and you want to go against things, I have no problem with it. That's the beauty of being an American. But to disrespect our military, okay, to not stand and put your hand over your heart for the national anthem is, to me, is a sin. I think that it shows an enormous amount of disrespect for the very people that go out and risk their lives for you and me every single day of their lives. And I think that between the Miami Dolphins and between the New York Giants and the other teams, I think either keep your teams in the locker room, but why do you want to create this? Roger Goodell, you make $40 million a year. Can't you get a solution to this problem? Okay, again, I think it offends a great deal of people, but I think the true Americans understand that it is that person's right. But again, I think the venue is incorrect. We don't go to sporting events to make a political statement. We go to sporting events to be one, because sporting events shouldn't be partisan. They should be there rooting for your team and not a political issue. That is my opinion, and that is the Bubba's Bottom Line. And as always, I thank you so much for being here. We will see you back here. We'll see you tomorrow for Bubba's Daily Update, but of course next week for Bubba's Bottom Line. And stand up for the national anthem. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. We'll see you later, everybody. Have a great day.